What's up, YouTube? ODST General back again with another Starship Troopers update video. So Mutated Sands ended up obviously dropping much sooner than what I had predicted in my video based off comments by other people and just assuming a quarterly release cycle. We got Mutated Sands yesterday. I have only played a handful of matches since then, and guys, this patch is absolutely hated by everybody. Everybody hates it. It is terrible. To the point that everybody kind of understandably thinks the dev team didn't playtest this at all and just put the mutators in and went, yeah, that's good on paper. That should be fun. And then just threw it out there. The issues are many. Some of the changes were probably good changes, but people are a little bit upset because they got used to things. Some of the changes are just terrible all around, and there really doesn't seem to be good reasoning behind them. So there's a lot of comments and a lot of different directions, both for and against things. I've seen a lot of comments saying stuff's too hard, stuff's too easy. I've seen both, and the reason for that is largely because of the new mutators the patch is named for. So the mutators, if you guys are unaware, because we really didn't get a whole lot of information on the mutators before, are basically stuff that change per mission, and they are on basically a timer for 1 hour. So you have an hour cycle, and you'll have maybe a mutator for lowered gravity in a map, a sandstorm, and then maybe you'll get grenadier ambushes, which will spawn in groups of 40 grenadiers randomly throughout the match and just blow everything up pretty much. I haven't encountered that particular combo, but I did see a bunch of different combinations I've seen kind of throughout the various difficulty ranges to varying extents. I can't remember what all my first match was. I want to say it was lowered gravity and the Grenadier ambush, and then there was something else. I can't remember what it was. The Grenadier ambush, hilarious on paper, hilarious to watch the first time. If I was doing arc defense though when that happened, I would be so angry because it's basically undefendable. You're done. Because there's 40 Grenadiers just dropping plasma everywhere. Everybody's basically instantly murdered unless you're a hunter that can just, jump out of the way. Pretty much anybody on the ground is going to die. And any buildings that you're trying to defend will almost certainly be gone instantly. There's also similar modes for gunners. The gunners were nerfed, but when you get 40 gunners even nerfed, I don't think it's going to matter too much, especially if the comments I've heard from other people are the case. I haven't encountered it myself yet, but just based off what I've seen with the Grenadiers on more than one occasion so far, I could definitely see the gunners being pretty terrible. And really, there's these modes for pretty much every type of bug in the game. Now, some of these are kind of interesting. We had one where it was drones, that's increased drone spawn and then drones attack more. The drones still weren't really a threat with that combination, but then being also thrown into the refinery, which is the new area they added, and having a sandstorm on top of it, so we were in an unfamiliar area and couldn't see anything, and it was just a non-stop swarm of drones as soon as we were off the dropship. It was actually a little overwhelming initially. We ended up getting organized, we got a base up, and that was super duper easy after that point. But it's really all over the place with these mutators, and I think that's where a large part of the issue stems, but there's also been a bunch of rebalancing and stuff too, and like I said, some of it was justified, some of it was needing to be changed, but was way overcorrected. Refineries, for instance, through cooldown refineries, I forget exactly what the time was on it. I want to say it was like 280 seconds or something like that. I can't remember the time exactly offhand. It was a long time. It was several minutes. It has been brought down from that to 4 seconds. 0, 4 seconds. There is essentially, for all intents and purposes, no cooldown on the refineries, because obviously it takes longer than 4 seconds to do the canisters and to run them back pretty much no matter where those refineries spawn in at. And so that kind of ruins a certain element to the game that was nice in the arc mode, which is that when your refineries went on cooldown, it gave teams an opportunity to shift around and do other stuff on the map, like, hey, this is a great opportunity The ore refinery's on cooldown, let's do an extermination. Or, hey, this one's further out, but this gives us a reason to hike out the extra distance because this one's on cooldown. They got rid of that. That is terrible in my opinion. I don't know why they put it down to 4 seconds. I know a few people like just being able to just sit on the one that's right next to the base and just deliver minerals. But if you're playing on hard, you're doing it for the challenge, and that definitely removes a big part of the challenge. And it kind of removes some of the actual gameplay loop from the game too. The other issue with the difficulty is that we have much lower and slower threat generation. So the threat very, very, very slowly goes up. I think in the couple of ARC matches I played, I saw the threat go up once. And even when it went up, the difficulty really didn't climb all that much. We barely saw any gunners. We barely saw any tigers. Actually, a couple of them, I'm not sure that I saw any tigers at all. And, you know, grenadiers were the same way. And so the difficulty's been lowered pretty significantly. Now, there is some mutators that increase the speed of the difficulty gaining or starts it off at max, so maybe that's why they made the difficulty climb slower, is because if you get double difficulty climbing, it's pretty much just instantly max anyways if it's at normal speed. Maybe that was their thinking. I don't really know. I haven't encountered the threat doubler, but I have encountered the maximum threat right from the start of the match, and honestly, it didn't feel like maximum threat in any of the other pre-patched missions I played. Like, those were actually difficult, and you were actually fighting off basically near final wave of bugs, but you were doing that like spread out all over the map. In this one, it was max threat level bugs. We were still spread out all over the map trying to get resources, but it was super easy. There was very few gunner bugs and grenadiers and tiger elites. It was mostly just drones and standard arachnid bugs. So there's definitely a lot of issues with the balancing. In my opinion, by default, the game without the mutators has been made far, far, far too easy. Threat generation needs to be increased. We need to see more bugs again. I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe that's a bug. There isn't anything I saw in the patch notes specifically about bugs being lowered, but you know, maybe that's an issue that's not intended, and maybe the threat level thing's not intended. I didn't see anything about that either, but I'm assuming those were intentional changes that they made and they just didn't include it. But yeah, we need faster threat generation again, and we need more bugs even at the lower threat levels, especially on the veteran difficulty. The other issue, you know, again, is just, again, the refineries being too quick, and that needs to be addressed too. Now, those are base game issues. There was also a bunch of class changes. So far, I haven't really come to a conclusion on the class changes myself. I know a lot of people are unhappy with changes. Some people feel that the operator was buffed up too much. Some people hate that the operator has been focused more on healing as opposed to base building, which I think is dumb. And I think if you think the operator should be base building, you really need to learn how to play the game, to be perfectly blunt. Obviously, the operator being able to carry multiple canisters and heals people is really designed to be going out during the ARC missions and supporting squads at the refineries, and then taking the supplies from those refineries back to the base, while the slower classes like the Bastion are at the base doing the base building. So it makes sense for Bastion to be the base builders because they are slower and they have a lot of ammo and they're very capable of holding up defensive positions, and their whole class is built around being stationary. The Hunters, on the other hand, the Hunters kind of got shafted a little bit. I don't really feel like the Operator or Bastion got shafted. In fact, I think, generally speaking, the changes made to them were positive, even though some players did lose stuff and they're unhappy about the stuff they lost. I think overall it was a move in the right direction to make each of the classes a little bit more unique and a little bit more focused on specific tasks, because that was something that kind of lacked prior to the patch. Was every class felt like it did pretty much everything in terms of your equipment, your weapons, and your grenades and stuff like that. The only difference was what your class specifically had for its unique ability. I think building the classes more around in terms of the equipment, around the unique abilities, and making the classes a little bit more defined is a much better way to go forward. That's a good thing. You know, and so there is good things in the patch too. Like we got that, we got the turret, we got the new refinery area. All that stuff's great. I do like all of that stuff, and I'm happy to see all of that stuff. And hopefully the devs, if the devs watch this, I'm sure they probably won't, because what's the likelihood of that? But if some developer happens to see this and you have gotten this far in the video and you haven't just shut it off by this point, I do want to say thank you guys for the update. You guys have provided some good stuff, but man, oh man, definitely dropped the ball on testing this out, and so just some common sense left the building when this patch was pushed. Again, things like the Grenadiers, the Mutators, that's just throwing a whole extra layer of difficulty into balancing and stuff like this. Like I said, the Gunners were nerfed. The Gunners were very strong before. I actually liked how strong the Gunners were and that they could kill you in a few hits. I know it was very frustrating being killed before you could really react to it. But I think especially as the Hunter, where you can just stay up where other bugs can't kill you, I think being able to kill a player who's doing that before they have a chance to react or get to cover and just turn around and kill the thing shooting them made a lot of sense. You know, there's still risk for those players, even up in those high areas where they're kind of out of the way of the other bugs. You know, the Gunners could still get them, the Grenadiers could still get them, and I think nerfing the Gunners kind of takes that away. Again, you do have times where you've got the 40 Grenadiers, you've got the 40 Gunners, you got the 40 Tiger Elites or whatever. And then at that point, it's basically impossible to, again, defend the base. So that stuff needs to be tweaked. And again, it can be tweaked, it can be done. I just don't understand why it was pushed like that in the first place. I can't help but wonder if the developers did any internal playtesting on any of these mutators. Like, some of them make sense, some of them are dumb and questionable. I definitely want to see more challenge from the game, which is funny because normally I'm not the type of person who goes out like, I want the hardest play experience possible, but definitely there is room for Starship Troopers to be more challenging and it still be fun, and I definitely hope to see that come with future updates. I am hoping that we get a patch here and that they can turn this patch around and make it something that players are excited about. I know a lot of people were hyped up for the patch before it dropped, so I don't know, maybe mutators can be made more fun, but definitely they went in the wrong direction overall. They went and made the game easier, they made it more randomized, which actually the randomization's fine because it keeps things fresh, you know, but it could have been a lot better in terms of how that patch was handled and how it's pushed out and what the content was in that patch. And I guess if you're going to push something like mutators, now is probably the best time because they're going to be difficult to balance compared to some of the stuff they've got planned for later on in release, where some of the later stuff like trooper customization, stuff like that is more, you know, polish than actual gameplay. Yeah, so anyways guys, have you played the new patch for Starship Troopers Extermination? If you have, what are your thoughts on it, guys? I assume that your thoughts are probably similar to pretty much everybody else on the planet, with the exception of a handful of people, which is that you probably don't like it. But if that is the case, or if not, let me know in the comments below, and if you don't like it, let me know why, and if you do, do you guys not care about the issues, or do you enjoy the changes in terms of what some other people are finding issues? So do you guys like the stuff like the 4D Gunners, stuff like that? Let me know in the comments below, guys. I want to hear what your thoughts are and see what you guys think would be the best way to fix Starship Troopers Extermination if you think it needs it. Alright guys, take it easy. I'll see you all in the next one.